All right, welcome to the Heaven and Rock podcast. My name is Kevin, and I help musicians improve their musicianship and their lifestyle. And in today's episode, we will be talking about increasing your productivity without feeling overwhelmed. Now, for us artists, any artist in general, whether you're a painter, creative writer, songwriter, guitarist, whatever, it's very easy to feel overwhelmed because in the back of our mind, we have a lot of ideas that we want to bring into life. We have a lot of projects that we want to complete, and some of the time, if not most of the time, we only end up finishing half of what we wanted to do. But if you're like me in this case, sometimes we end up finishing half of one project. And the reason why that happens is because we end up overwhelming ourselves with the amount of things that we want to work on. Now, you see, I remember, basically when I got out of one of my semesters in college and I ended up having summer vacation, I ended up picking up a job, but I did not have a lot of hours during that particular job. So I ended up having a lot of time for myself, and during that particular time, I ended up wanting to finish a lot of projects and ideas that I had, right? So the first thing that I said to myself when I finished the semester, it was, okay, cool. I just finished my semester and I got out of school, so let me upload 40 guitar covers on YouTube. Let me get into photography. Let me do all of this drawings that I want to do. Let me do this. Let me do this. Let me do that. Let me do a lot of things. And yes, I'm talking with my hands because, I love talking with my hands. All right. And if you're watching the Heaven and Rock podcast, then this is one of the fun facts about Kevin. Kevin loves talking with his hands. All right. Anyways, back to the story. At the end of that summer, I ended up barely even finishing half of one project, because now that I look back at that particular time, I did not manage to take into account the amount of time that it would take me to finish working on one particular guitar cover, let alone the time that it would take me to get into photography, learn the craft, let alone the time that it would take me to work on the drawings that I wanted to work on. So what that particular summer ended up looking like was I would grab my guitar and I would attempt to learn a song, and then I would immediately feel overwhelmed because all that I kept thinking about was finishing my to-do list. I ended up thinking about finishing all of those projects all at once. So by the time that I learned one song, I immediately dropped my guitar and I was like, okay, cool, now I have to do something else. Let me do this, let me do that. And I ended up hopping from one project to another project, and I barely even learned or managed to accomplish anything. So now I'm going to be talking about 4 essential principles or 4 tips that have helped me along the way. And if you're an artist, I definitely believe that these tips will help you as well. Now, I actually had to write a couple of things on paper because there were a couple of things that I had in my mind, but I narrowed it down to the 4 most important. So number one is don't overload yourself with work. All right, if you want to do something, if you want to finish a project during 1 week, during 2 weeks, or if you want to finish a couple of projects during 2 weeks, think about how much time it will take you to accomplish one particular project. And sometimes you are right, sometimes you are wrong, you end up needing more time, but if you estimate the amount of time, most of the time you will be successful in managing your time to finish one particular task. In that case, during that particular summer, I was not being realistic. First of all, I did not manage to think, okay, it's probably gonna take me a week to learn one song write one song, edit that one song, film it, and then upload it on YouTube. It's probably going to take me about 2 weeks to get into the craft of photography and to learn how to use the camera the proper way, or it's going to take me a couple of hours a day for me to go out in the field and try to learn how to use the rule of thirds. It's probably going to take me about 30 minutes to 2 hours to try to get this drawing done. I did not thought about that. All that I thought was I have to finish all these things that I wanted to do. I ended up focusing on the result. I did not end up focusing on the journey, which was finishing one project at a time. All right, which brings me to point number 2, which is exactly that. Focus on one project at a time. All right, now that you've been able to see what you can do and what you cannot do, now focus on doing one thing at a time. To keep following up with that example, I think I would have been more successful if I would have said to myself, all right, maybe it's not realistic for me to upload 40 guitar covers on YouTube, but maybe I can do 20 guitar covers on YouTube if I manage my time properly. All right, now, cool, what are the songs that I want to do? All right, perfect. Let me focus on one song, let me learn it, and if I already know the song, well, let me record it and let me look at the camera to see how I want to film this particular video, and then, well, let me upload it on YouTube, and then I'll move on to the next song. And if I would have focused on one thing at a time, then the process for me would have been more enjoyable. That summer was one of the most painful summers in my life because every day I ended up being overwhelmed with the amount of things that I forced on. I ended up forcing myself to try to complete all of these things, and I did not manage to have a good strategy. Now, which brings me to point number 3, which is to manage your time properly. Okay, let's say that I wanted to do one song a week. How am I going to manage the time to work on that particular song? A better way to manage my time would have been to look at my schedule, look at the days that I was working and the days that I was not working, and if I was working, what time I would have been home, and then try to block 2 hours after I got out of work so I can focus on my project. If this is you and you want to accomplish finishing a project that you have in mind, think about the amount of time that it's going to take you to finish the project and block a amount of time of that particular day so that you can finish that project. Maybe that amount is half an hour, maybe that amount is an hour a day, or maybe is 4 or 5 hours, 3 days in a week, whatever works for you. But physically go and look at your calendar and make a plan so that you're able to follow it and you're able to accomplish your goal. And now, which brings me to point number 4. I keep turning the paper. Anyways, commit to the project that you choose. If you are like me, then you probably want to finish everything at once because you like doing everything. But it is very important to detach yourself from that, from the emotion, from the high that you get when you think about finishing all those projects and accomplishing your goals. And pick one project. Let's say that is one song, then pick that song and stick to it. And when you stick to the song, go all in. Manage your time, block out a specific time of your day, and just commit to that project. And commit to the experience, whether you like it or not. What some people do is they would start writing a song, and then they'll be like, okay, I don't like it. Cool, let me move on to the next thing. And then they do the same exact thing, and then they move on to the next project, and then at the end of the line, they have all of these half-assed written songs that they never finished. And this is not just for musicians, but the same thing can happen to painters, to people who are who are drawing, and then they would be like, okay, I just have writer's block, or I'm not able to finish. Okay, detach yourself from the pieces of work that you create. Well, that's another topic for another episode, but essentially, let go of the emotions that you are feeling and just focus on finishing that particular piece. If you don't end up liking what you are creating, screw that and just finish it. Because when you have a finished piece, even if you don't like it, then you'll be able to learn from that particular piece, and you will be able to see what you like and what you didn't like, and then you're going to use that experience so that the next piece that you will create will be a better piece. But all of that happens with commitment. Okay, we're not able to learn, or we're not able to really understand a specific experience if we don't go all in, if we are not focused on, what's the word that I'm thinking about, if we are not focused in experiencing whatever it is that we are setting out to do. Okay, and that's about it for me. That's it for this episode. It was a bit of a short episode, I should say, but look, I'm not saying that my solution is the solution to this, but if you are feeling overwhelmed with creative ideas, this is definitely going to help you out. That's it for me today. If you like what you heard, then follow the Haven of Rock podcast and subscribe to the YouTube link. And don't forget to spread the love, and I will talk to you in the near future.